Morning. Welcome to the July 10th, 2019 Punta Gorda City Council meeting. Let the record reflect that all city council members and city officials, with the exception of our city manager, Howard Koenig, are here. And filling in for Howard today is our communications manager, Melissa Reichert. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you very much.
I'm glad to have you here. And we'll begin with our invocation. Thank you, John, and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Blessed are you, Lord of creation. You feed the whole world with your goodness, your grace, your kindness, and your mercy. You nourish us with these attributes which we aspire to ourselves. May this council and all here present accept your guidance, counsel in all matters coming before this assembly today. Amen.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll begin the day with a proclamation, and I'm going to present the proclamation for the Smokey the Bear Day. So,
Because that isn't hot.
it's a good thing that the temperature outside is not really very hot at the moment. All right, Smokey, good job. So we'll begin the proclamation, City of Punta Gorda, Florida. Whereas on August 9th, 2019, Smokey Bear will celebrate his 75th birthday. You look really good for 75. Which also marks his wildfire prevention campaign as the longest-running public service campaign in U.S. history. Smokey's message, remember, only you can prevent forest fires, is as relevant today as it was in 1944, as more people are living closer to natural areas. No retirement for Smokey. And whereas the mission of the Florida Forest Service is to protect Florida and its people from the dangers of wildland fire and manage forest resources through a stewardship ethic to assure they are available for future generations. And whereas in the last 5 years, Florida Forest Service wildland firefighters have responded to over 122 wildfires in Charlotte County that burned 3,453 acres, in many instances threatening communities and adjoining infrastructure. And whereas the City of Punta Gorda commends the Florida Forest Service for being actively engaged in promoting and conducting prescribed burns and other wildfire mitigation practices to reduce the size and intensity of wildfires. And whereas everyone is invited to come to the Charlotte County Sports Complex in Port Charlotte on Saturday, August 3rd, 2019, from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. to help Smokey celebrate his 75th birthday with food, music, and a scavenger hunt before he throws out the first pitch at the ball game. All right. You know, you were an athlete too. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Punta Gorda, Florida, does hereby congratulate Smokey Bear on his 75th birthday and his continued efforts to remind citizens to be careful when using fire in natural areas, and does hereby declare August 9, 2019 as Smokey Bear Day, passed and duly adopted in regular session this 10th day of July 2019. City of Punta Gorda, Florida, signed Nancy Prafke, Mayor. And accepting is from the U.S. Forest Service. There, and make comments if you like.
I know you can't see it. Look at that, huh? All right. On behalf of the Florida Forest Service, the Mica River District, and of course Smokey Bear, he can't talk right now. We greatly appreciate the proclamation recognizing 75 years of hard work, and I suspect we'll be doing this again at 85 as well.
Absolutely.
And please, do attend, if you can, make time to attend that, what we call the birthday bash on the 3rd of August. It ought to be a lot of fun. We have a lot of cooperating agencies going to be there, as well as some other surprises, and we'll be giving out some gifts and things like that.
I think our fire and police departments will be there.
Very good, yes.
Yes.
We're still gathering all the list of who's going to arrive, but it should be quite a turnout. It'll be quite a turnout. And as an appreciation for this day, we have tokens of appreciation that can be handed out later for everyone, and we really appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks
you for
again.
being here.
Before we leave, would you all like to do a picture or anything with me?
Sure, we can do a picture. Absolutely. You want to come up here and we can
Bring
kind
him
of, we can have Smokey come up here and stand and we can stand behind? You want to do that? Or do you,
All right, sure.
you want to,
If you can stand up
However
with the
you
chambers.
like.
you want to go down there or do you want to be up here?
We can go out there. It might be easier.
Want to go down there?
Might be a bit of a
All right, we'll go down there.
Yeah, yeah, I do have a certain amount of.
Maybe get Smokey some skinny jeans.
Yes. Okay, be careful, I got it here.
You didn't go down.
No, I'm gonna go on this way.
It's safer.
Of the ambulance waiting.
I feel like I leave my puppy with me in case I have something to eat, because I'm.
The next item on the agenda is a presentation, something that we've known has been coming, but it's one of those where you just go, no, it cannot be. So I will turn this over to Melissa Reichert.
I have the bittersweet pleasure of being able to recognize Marion Pace today. Marion's retiring. She's served us for over 35 years. She's really been important to the city because she's been such an advocate for continuous improvement. This was exemplified with her leadership of the Six Sigma process in 2006 and 2007. She really showed her leadership skills and really helped move the city along in the procurement process. She's been a leader in the Florida Association of Public Procurement Officials, and her guidance of the department has led to numerous recognitions by the National Institute of Governmental Purchasing Award for Outstanding Agency Accreditation. If you go into procurement, it is just a wall of trophies that and awards that have been received because of the efforts of Marion and her staff that she's led so well. We're going to miss her very much as she relocates to a place with no building codes. Can you imagine that? Woo! And she's got 26 acres, and she says she's ready to welcome all of her friends from Punta Gorda. Thank you for your service, Marion, and best wishes for a long and healthy retirement.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Mary.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
What day do you want us to organize the bus trip to your house?
We're going to be on break, and I'm looking for someplace to go.
Great. We will be there come July 16th.
Duly noted.
It's been such an honor, and I'm going to try to do this without any tears. The city is my life, my family. You've raised me professionally and into my adulthood. I've worked with a lot of people, including those out in the field, and just the trust that they put into us. And my fellow procurement director, Ross Furry, forced me into this position. But my team, I love you guys. I love all the departments I work for, and I really appreciate your support. And we'll miss you, but we will be back. Thank you.
Congratulations. So next on the agenda is the introduction of board and committee member nominees. If you are nominated for a board or a committee and you'd like to introduce yourself, please come to the podium. Okay, seeing none. Before we get on with our agenda, you know, we've already celebrated one birthday today, but there's actually another birthday that we need to celebrate. Today is Karen Smith's birthday.
Told.
Are we going to sing?
Let's all sing happy birthday to Karen.
Oh, yes.
All right, come on.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Karen. Happy birthday to you.
They told you they're all fired.
You can blame the HR department. They put the list out once a month.
Yeah, the list goes out every
Yeah.
month. I mean,
Thank you
come
very
on.
much.
Yes. But, you know, I know that we were not going to get an award for our performance. It would not be something you'd want on America's Got Talent, but, but we had fun anyway, so thank you. Congratulations. Okay, moving on in our agenda then. We have a public hearing. It's actually a quasi-judicial public hearing.
Yes, this is SC-02-19. Anyone who will be presenting any evidence or testimony will need to be sworn at this time. Please rise, be sworn by the city clerk.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in today's proceedings? I do. And when you're ready to speak, please come to the podium, state your name, and indicate that you have been sworn.
This is SC-02-19, a special exception request by Jerry Wexler, authorized agent for Broadway Shops LLC, applicant and property owner pursuant to Chapter 26, Section 16.8, Punta Gorda Code, to allow an indoor storage facility, which is permitted by special exception pursuant to Chapter 26, Article 3, Section 3.8 F9, Punta Gorda Code, for the property addressed as 1133 Bal Harbor Boulevard, Punta Gorda, Florida, located in Neighborhood Center NC zoning district.
Good morning, Lisa Hannon, zoning official, and I have been sworn. I'd like to enter the entire staff report into the record by reference. This is a special exception request for an indoor storage facility at 1133 Bal Harbor Boulevard. It is permitted by special exception per the city code. This is to, sorry, got ahead of myself. This is for a storage facility in the empty space in the rear of the shopping center. No new buildings are proposed. It's interior to the existing building. The criteria for special exception, number one, the requested use will not adversely affect the use of neighboring properties. Since this is an indoor storage facility in an existing building, there's existing parking and existing loading, and it is less intense use than retail. Number two, that it complies with the comprehensive plan, and it does comply with the comprehensive plan, future land use policies, procedures, and capital improvement plans. It utilizes an existing building, and they are doing a minor ramp, dock, loading dock modification only. The location of building wall, fences, and buffering. It's currently operating as a retail center. They are proposing to enhance the landscape buffer, The landscape is required to be maintained in perpetuity, and any outdoor lighting, new lighting will be required to meet our code standards. Pedestrian vehicular traffic not hazardous. Since it is a current retail center, it's going to utilize existing parking, drive aisles, and access points. No new parking, drive aisles, or access points are proposed. Findings. Finding number 1, this does repurpose a portion of an existing unused building. It also provides convenient storage to the neighborhood. Finding number 2, it's utilizing existing parking, loading, ingress, egress, drive aisles. There's only a minor modification on the exterior, and that's to extend the enclosed loading dock and expand the open loading ramp. They will enhance the existing landscape buffer, which will be required to be maintained in perpetuity, and the proposed plants are fast-maturing plants. Conclusions. It does provide a convenient benefit to the surrounding residents. It utilizes everything that is existing on site. Staff recommends approval of the request with the following conditions. That, of course, the expansion of the loading dock ramp requires a permit prior to construction. The landscape buffer requires staff approval prior to installation and must be maintained in perpetuity. And any exterior lighting proposed must meet the land development regulations for intensity and design. These are the requirements. These are the full conditions for special exception. And then we did take some pictures of existing lighting that is coming into the drive aisle at the rear. There's one pole light there, and that is the only wall pack that is on the rear of it. The other ones are like porch lights that are out there. So, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any.
Any questions? Debbie?
I was asked by someone if this company that's doing this decided to go into the U-Haul rental business, would they be allowed to store their U-Haul trucks back there?
No, ma'am,
Okay,
that would not be permitted
Okay.
in this zoning district.
great, thanks.
I have a question. Would we be able to make additional stipulations on lighting?
Absolutely. You can make any conditions that you
Um,
choose.
There's a slide, I don't know if you want to do it now or after the public hearing. It's of the Pickleplex, and this is the Pickleplex lighting that, I'm presuming it's dark sky compliant. The light doesn't travel much past the actual Pickleplex itself, so the light doesn't interfere with the observatory out at Florida Southwestern. And so as I was thinking about this and hearing residents comment that live in the condominiums near this, if there was lighting that was like this, that would really just light the area, but the light wouldn't travel.
Right, and we can require full cutoff fixtures as well. We have foot candle standards that it can't exceed so many foot candles at the property line. So, but you can make any conditions that you want. They haven't proposed any exterior lighting yet, but if they do, that can be some of the conditions.
Okay. No more questions?
I have several for the applicant, but I'll wait till
Oh, okay.
they do their presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Jerry Waxler with the McCrory Law Firm, representing Broadway Shops LLC. I have already submitted a copy of this PowerPoint to the clerk, and I'd like to submit it into the record. I'm an attorney who has practiced land use and zoning law for over 28 years. I've written land development regulations for local governments. I've been a presenter on comprehensive planning and zoning matters at continuing education courses presented to attorneys, engineers, and planners. And I have been retained as an expert in land use and zoning and civil litigation matters. Broadway Shops LLC is requesting a special exception for an indoor storage facility. The proposed special exception will be located within the Bal Harbor Shopping Plaza. The site has been zoned for commercial use for decades. The shopping plaza itself was built 28 years ago in 1991. The large space at the plaza's east end, and you can see that in this picture, was intended to house a grocery store, and for a while it did. A Food Lion store operated in this space for a few years. It went out of business shortly after media reports of their unsanitary handling of meat and seafood throughout their chain. That was pretty much the demise of every Food Lion store. Since then, a series of owners of this plaza have had difficult time filling that large space. The current owner and the applicant, Broadway Shops LLC, has had success by subdividing the space and leasing the front portion out to a variety of tenants. Because it was designed for a grocery store, the easternmost space is more than twice as deep as the remainder of the plaza. And again, you can see that on the picture that's up on the screen, that last unit extends almost twice as far back as anything else in the plaza. That was needed when it was a grocery store for delivery space and for storage space. The current tenants utilize only the front portion of the shopping plaza, that which faces the parking lot. The rear continues to remain vacant. Broadway Shop LLC proposes to convert the rear space to indoor storage. To accomplish this, the only change which will to the existing building will be to add an enclosed rear loading dock. Now, the rear loading dock that you see, I've got to make sure I get my little, there we go. I'm not good with this. This one works better. This is existing, you can see the line right here. So this is the existing loading dock. They will be adding on this space, adding 2 overhead doors, and then adding a ramp so that vehicles can come up, enter through the overhead doors, and then unload in the enclosed parking space. It's about 18 feet adjacent to and parallel the building. That's about an 18 feet extension is what we're talking about. This will enable the clients to drive up the ramp, open the overhead doors, drive into the fully enclosed offloading area to deliver or pick up storage. I'd either deliver them to storage or pick them up from storage. Absolutely no outdoor storage is proposed with this special exception. Other than the extension of the enclosed loading platform and the installation of ramps into the loading area, no exterior changes to the site are proposed. From the front, along Akiesta Drive, and from the side along Bal Harbor Drive, the site will look exactly the same as it would look if you drove down there today. The existing landscape buffer along the site's south boundary will be enhanced to mitigate the visual impact of the expanded loading area to the condominiums that are behind the property. There are 4 criteria that this board must consider when evaluating a request for a special exception. First, that the proposed use will not adversely affect the use of neighboring properties. The proposed use does not require any alterations to the property that will be visible from adjacent roadways or from properties to the north, east, or west. The extended loading area is entirely enclosed. Loading and unloading will be done inside and will not be visible from the surrounding properties. The new ramps are visible only from certain of the adjacent condos. The visual impact itself will be mitigated by the expansion and extension of the existing landscape buffer. The proposed use is entirely internal to the building. No storage or storage units will be visible from any adjacent property. The proposed use will not be visible from adjacent roadways. The storage facility will utilize existing driveways and entrances. There's no new construction, nothing new that is required from the surrounding roadway system. The average daily trips generated by the mini storage is 170% less than the traffic that would be generated if the space was built out with retail uses. 170% less traffic from this use than if it was put to retail use. Second, the use will comply with applicable district regulations and applicable provisions of the adopted comprehensive plan and downtown plans. As you heard, all construction will require review and approval by the Development Review Committee and will require issuance of building permits. The expanded loading docks and the ramps will be set back 40 foot. It's very difficult to see in here, but we actually have the numbers you've got. This is a 60 foot to this point, and it is 40 foot from this point. So to set back 40 foot from the property line, that is double the 20 foot that is required by the neighborhood commercial zoning district. The height of the extended loading ramp is lower than the existing roof line of the main building, so we're not going up anymore in height. The zoning official determined that the proposed use is appropriate within the neighborhood commercial zoning district, neighborhood center zoning district. It is consistent with the comprehensive plan as detailed in the application, particularly the policies in the plan which encourage infill development and the use of the special exception process to ensure compatibility with existing residential uses. I submit the application in its entirety into the record of this hearing. The third criteria is that the location, size, and height of buildings, structures, walls, and fences, and the nature and extent of screening, buffering, and landscaping shall be such that the use will not hinder or discourage the appropriate development and use of adjacent or nearby land and/or buildings. This is a long-established commercial plaza. The use, again, will not be visible from the adjacent streets or from any neighbors except perhaps those living in the condos that overlook the site. These condos were built after the shopping plaza, so any condo owners with views of the shopping plaza purchased their units knowing that they overlooked a commercial loading zone. You can see here the location of the condo buildings, which is right located here, and then this is the location of where the loading zone will be. So there's not direct sight, they have to be wanting to look at it. For those that live here, you may have a view. That said, even though they built knowing that they were behind a loading dock, my client understands that they are our neighbors and that they are concerned about how the proposed use will affect them. Broadway Shops has incorporated multiple methods to address their concerns. The landscape buffers on the property line adjacent to the condos will be enhanced by the installation of 92 Alphonse Carr bamboo plants. So you can see again, this is the proposed building. Starting from this point, we're having lower vegetation here. There are trees in front of it. And then from this point this way, we'll be installing the Alphonse Carr bamboo plants. Alphonse Carr is a clumping bamboo, which the University of Florida Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences, or IFAS, and I gave you the site that I took it from, says, quote, is possibly the best clumping bamboo for a tall hedge or barrier planting. It will be 4 to 6 feet at the time of planting, and again, according to IFAS, will be 20 to 35 foot at time of maturity with a spread of 10 feet. I submit the IFAS fact sheet on Alphonse Carr bamboo into the record. The neighbors can expect that the bamboo will reach a height of about 6 to 8 feet after a year, 8 to 12 feet after 2 years, and 20 plus feet after 3 years. So it will provide a significant visual barrier from those that live in the adjacent condominiums. The proposed indoor storage use requires only minimal alterations to the existing buildings, all of which are a size and scope that the overall visual impact of the building is essentially unchanged. The enclosed loading dock remains enclosed. The extended loading dock's roof remains below the roof line of the remainder of the building. The applicant is also proposing 3 additional conditions of approval over and above those that were proposed by staff. The first is limiting the hours of operation to from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. for the loading area. We had originally proposed 24 hours a day. We heard the concerns that were expressed at the Planning Commission hearing. We believe that this is realistic. We don't expect that there's going to be tremendous traffic in the evenings, but people do sometimes travel in from out of town and they want to and they arrive, after normal business hours and want to be able to get things out of storage to bring back to their homes or put them there early before they get on the road to head back to wherever their snowbird, their home destination is. The second proposed condition is prohibiting any outdoor storage on the adjacent grassy area directly east of the building. That is the area located right here. I did see some of the comments that were posted on Nextdoor. I looked at the emails that were sent to all of you, and I know that there was a concern about there's a park across the way, what will they be looking at? There was a concern from the condominium residents who now overlook that grassy area, what will they be looking at? It has never been, it was misinformation that was spread. There has never been any intent to have any sort of an outdoor storage area. That area will not be used for storage of any kind, and we would accept that as a condition of approval. And finally, requiring that the lighting placed on the rear of the existing building operate with motion sensors. We would also be open to conditions that it has to be the type of light that stays on site, but in addition to that, we will have them operate on motion sensors so that the area is not lit up, except in the rare occurrence when someone comes in the dark to utilize the facility, will light up at that time. So those are the conditions that we are proposing. The fourth criteria is that the proposed use will be such that pedestrian and vehicular traffic generated will not be hazardous or conflict with the existing and anticipated traffic in the neighborhood and on the streets serving the site. The enclosed mini-storage use, as I indicated, will generate 170% less traffic than if the space is developed with retail uses. And that is permitted by right. Those retail uses could develop tomorrow. They wouldn't come before you. It wouldn't be open to any public hearing. They would simply go in and generate 170% more traffic. We are using existing entrances, driveways, and parking areas. Broadway Shops, LLC, gave a lot of thought to the best way to redevelop this grocery store location. It has been vacant for a lot of years, which doesn't do anybody any good. Ultimately, they identified a solution that created additional retail opportunities along the storefront side, while still creating a use along the rear that utilized in a much less intense way the existing delivery drives and loading docks. I've read the email sent to the council member, and dutifully, they were initially sent to Councilmember Matthews and were dutifully forwarded on to all of the council members, and I always check that. I receive some of them, and I check that before any hearing as a matter of course. The concerns that were raised in those emails, visual impacts, traffic impacts, degrading the park across the street, all seem to come from a misunderstanding of what was being proposed. This is not a mini storage facility with rows of overhead doors and boats and trailers parked in between those rows of storage facilities with overhead doors, all visible to the neighbors and the traveling public. There will be no change to the facades of the building except for that 18-foot extension of the enclosed loading area and the installation of the ramp leading up to that enclosed loading area, all within an area that has always been designed for loading and unloading. That is the rear of the store. In fact, in one of the photos I noticed that they were showing the lighting, you saw a FedEx truck back there. This has always been a loading and unloading area. It will continue to be utilized as a loading and unloading area. There is absolutely no outside storage proposed. There is no new commercial proposed. The indoor storage facility is going into an existing building zoned for commercial use. I again, read letters that talked about we don't need any more commercial, there shouldn't be any new commercial. This is an existing building. It's already here. It is already zoned for commercial. We're not proposing new commercial and bringing new commercial to the area. We're simply proposing to utilize an existing commercial building. The proposed indoor storage facility, yes? Yeah, sorry, yes. The proposed indoor storage facility will generate, give me just a moment. It will generate a whole lot less traffic than if the space is built out with retail shops. So if traffic on Bal Harbor or Akiesta is a concern, this is a much better option than having that site develop out with retail. Additionally, my client has self-imposed conditions to address the adjacent condominium owners' concerns. Installation of a fast-growing landscape buffer, a limitation on hours of use, motion sensors for lighting, and of course that ban on outdoor storage. Instead of overlooking a location that was designed for deliveries by semi-tractor trailers with no limit on the time for delivery, condo owners, if this is approved, will instead overlook a thick bamboo hedge obscuring deliveries made predominantly by cars and pickup trucks during designated hours. Staff has reviewed the application, found that it meets the procedural requirements and the criteria for approval, and is recommending approval of the special exception. The Planning Commission likewise recommended approval with conditions. Broadway Shops has additionally demonstrated how it meets the criteria for approval. Broadway Shops LLC accepts the conditions proposed by staff and endorsed by the Planning Commission, proposes imposition of the conditions that were handed out to you and discussed during this presentation, and respectfully requests approval of this special exception. I'm available if you have questions.
Lynn?
Thank you, Mrs. Wexler. First, let me disclose that I have had communication with the applicant as well as Mrs. Wexler. I attended the design studio meeting when they first came to the city about this project. I also attended the Planning Commission hearing so that I could listen to what was going on. I've had numerous communications with many of the citizens in and around the project. So I just wanted to put that on record. I drove through the plaza, and I'm glad to see that there is no direct alignment behind the condos. So there's quite an offset to where the entrance ramp will be when it's put in. And thank you for allowing the partial hours compared to the 24 hours. That is a huge concern. I've heard from numerous residents that were near that project that really wanted it to be limited. And in fact, I had gone as far as printing out usage hours from some of the other storage unit facilities in the area. So my questions are, I had a lot of questions from citizens about this project, needless to say. With regard to the ramp, how are you going to control kids on skateboards and things of that type on the access ramp? Are we gonna, is there any way that there can be signage, or are they gonna have
Absolutely.
closed-circuit
We can
cameras?
post- No, and you can make that a condition. I mean, that is a concern of the owner as well. There are liability issues if you start allowing that ramp to
Right.
be used for skateboards and such. So we will happily post signs, and certainly if there is any indication that it's being used for that purpose, they'll take additional steps to ensure that that doesn't occur.
Is the access to the ramp indoor area, is that going to be computerized with a code that they're
Yes,
gonna have to
we will
use?
have a code that they can punch in to open the overhead doors and access in to be able to get into the storage
Okay.
facility.
I think that will eliminate some of the security issues that were raised by some of the people I talked to. And you mentioned there were going to be 2 lanes. Is that going to be 2 cars can access at any one
Two
time?
cars could access at any one time. I think that's unlikely, but it does have that ability, yes.
Yeah, okay. I think those are really the only questions I had. The big concern was the 24 hours, and you have already addressed that, and I'm happy to say that I would absolutely want that included in the approval criteria, so thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Other questions, Gary?
I have just 2 quick questions. If I was renting a storage facility in this location and I want to enter it just to inventory, would I have to go through the back, or would I have access through the front
You
of
would
the
have
building?
access, you could park in the front, and one of the spaces along the front has been reserved for an office. You would be able to enter through the office and enter.
I just
into
wanted to
the
be clear on
storage
that.
facility.
Thank you.
Yes.
And then also, would you be willing to consider the installation of security cameras in the back so that we would be assured that kids wouldn't be skateboarding if we had kids in the neighborhood, and also we wouldn't have any nefarious issues going on after hours?
My client unfortunately is not here. I don't see a huge issue with that, but I'm not certain that that really addresses your concerns. It lets you know if there is somebody there, but the cameras doesn't necessarily mean that there's somebody there to be able to address it if it's after hours or something along those lines. But yeah, if you want to require the installation of cameras, sure.
It would be just a way of being able to ensure that people weren't going beyond what the commitment would. There would be a record, an additional visual record.
And is that because of the ramps that you have the concern of that? Because this is a loading area. It's been a loading area.
Also because of the isolation of the area, because, the people in midnights, they look for places like parks or other places to abode, to partake in recreational enhancements of various sorts, just to ensure that this wasn't something that would attract that.
But Jerry, as an empty building, isn't that a problem? I mean, couldn't that be a potential issue now? I would think that.
It seems like it's
Yeah.
it's a dark, it's a loading zone now. And if people were looking for a place, I don't think, and I guess the police chief is not here anymore. I'm not aware that there have been issues with vagrants or people hanging out behind the building now. Nothing about what we are proposing makes it more or less attractive if someone wanted to come
My
behind the
question is
building.
only meant to be proactively, not to imply that that's occurring at the present time.
I think for purposes of the safety of the clientele, that's not a bad idea, and if that was a condition you want to impose, not a whole lot I can do about it.
I would further like to endorse what Gary just said, because I have been told that there have been people out by the dumpster area behind the complex. So I think that would be kind of an important thing also.
So did I hear you correctly that you are willing to do something about keeping the lighting on premise so that it's low?
Sure,
Like,
I don't see any
Whether it's a
issue
dark
with
sky
that.
compliant or it's shade, whatever.
Yes.
However
You
that's-
have, like, as Lisa indicated, you already have criteria that don't allow, that require it to be at the light to be at a certain level at the property boundaries. If you want to put something that needs to be shaded or something that would require that the light stays on premises, that lighting is readily available. I would not object to that.
Okay, good. Any other questions for the applicant?
I do have one. Jerry, just a clarification. the proposed conditions that you provided to us, paragraph number 2, there's a slight difference in the printed version of the condition versus what you expressed verbally. You indicated that the grassed area would not be used for outdoor storage.
Or a storage facility of any type. So we can, outdoor storage, it won't be used as a storage facility.
Including outdoor storage.
Correct.
Okay, can we add that to your,
Sure.
okay, thank you.
So I guess another question I have is, the hours that you've proposed of 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.,
Yes.
how firm are you with the 6 a.m.?
I think the 6 a.m. is important. People looking to get on a road may want to come and get materials right before they leave. They tend to get on the road early. You need to get in at 6 a.m. Same thing for those who are keeping things here for fishing or things like, people get up and out early to do some of those activities. I think you need to have the ability to get to the storage facility at that time. That is consistent, I think, with what you would find at other facilities.
Okay.
I agree, and if you have a contractor that wants to start work at 7 o'clock, this gives him the opportunity to get his tools, et cetera.
Okay.
You might,
And I think the fact that it's an enclosed area where they'll be loading and unloading, that's going to buffer a lot of the sound. All you'd have is the noise of the car driving up,
Which they have now anyway.
which they have anyway, yeah.
I did actually print out the hours of operation for 4 of the other storage facilities in town, and Comfort Storage and Punta Gorda Self-Storage are both 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. So I think that's realistic, and the fact that those two are not in a residential neighborhood is further, further states that I think that those hours are appropriate for this facility.
Okay. Other questions? So then we should open it up, right?
Correct.
For the public hearing.
Yes.
So this is a quasi-judicial public hearing. If you have comments to make, would you please come to the podium? You have 3 minutes. If you'd like to make comments about this item, please come to the podium, and you have 3 minutes. Last call.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
I would like to make a motion to approve SE-02-19 with the conditions submitted by city staff, as well as the applicant and the council suggestions with regard to lighting. I think that's all we needed to
what
add
about
to.
cameras?
And security cameras, thank you.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, the city attorney had, is the
Oh,
applicant's
yes, and his
conditions as
correction,
amended.
and his correction to the applicant's conditions. Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to accept SE-02-19 with all of the stated additions. Would all those,
Hold 1 second. I just noted that the applicant's list that she gave us has the wrong hearing number on the top of the page. That needs to be amended,
Oh,
just for consistency's sake. It says SE-01-19. Should be 02.
do we need to amend the motion?
Do we need to do anything?
No.
Okay, just so it's on the record.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So there's been a motion and a second. Would all those in favor please signify by saying aye? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we will move on to the consent agenda. This is we'll take citizens' comments on consent agenda items. The first of these is, excuse me, an extension of the agreement with Tetra Tech, a Southwest Florida Regional Resiliency Compact, and an application for FY 2019 for the Charlotte Community to the Charlotte Community Foundation from our police department. So those 3 items are on the consent agenda. If anyone would like to comment on consent agenda items, please come to the podium, and you have 3 minutes. Okay, seeing none. Would anyone like to pull any consent agenda items?
No.
No? I'll take a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Would all those in favor please signify by saying aye? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We will now move into our regular agenda items. And we have quite a few here, and they're all related to budget. So the first of these is adopting a tentative levy of annual assessment for the lot mowing program, and the resolution for the millage rate, and award of a specific authorization for the Bernstall Isles Lock widening, and approval of a contract change order for the water treatment plant, a presentation of the fair share impact study, and the Ponce de Leon Park utility upgrade, and the draft FY 2020 strategic plan. So we'll take citizens' comments on all of these items. Please come to the podium, and you have 3 minutes. We have a quiet group today. All right, well, then we'll press forward. And we'll start off with item A.
Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, let's go ahead.
This is a resolution, which I'll read by title only, a resolution adopting a tentative levy of annual special assessment for the city of Punta Gorda lot mowing assessment district for fiscal year 2019 and 2020, setting a date, time, and place of public hearing to consider final adoption of the assessment and providing an effective date.
Good morning, Kristen Simeone, Finance Director. So we brought to you an update on the lot mowing program based on the comments from last week's meeting, using zero-turn-based mowers. Our current contractor could increase the rate to $11 per lot per mow from the $7.50 rate. So with that type of cost, the proposed assessment would be $205 annually.
Okay, questions, comments? Debbie?
I have a question. Kristen, how do we account with our contract with the firm that's doing this for the decrease in lots that they have to mow as the build-out gets stronger?
We have not really had that many decrease. We do look at it every year, and we have a formula that we use to say how many lots are currently in the program. So this was based on current lots as of what was given to us by the property appraiser's office.
Okay.
Okay. So we haven't had that issue yet.
Okay.
Jaha?
I think that this is a good way to make an ugly city. Going over the $200 mark, I think psychologically will make people less likely to want to use the program. I think that this is actually not wise for us to take. I think we should stay as is.
Len?
Last year, we had a long discussion about the fact that the summer months required additional mows. That has not happened. The grass in the lot next door to me is over 3 feet high. And I'm very concerned with this company doing their mowing program. I'm very concerned that for doing the same service for the same amount of lots, they're going to charge that much more money with more efficient equipment. I don't like, I know it's going to take a little more time, but quite frankly, I think this is an excessive amount additional to convert to zero-turn mowers. I'm very concerned about this current contract.
So 2 points. First, on the particular, over the last couple of weeks, there was some miscommunication. I think Lisa can talk to you about that.
Lisa Hannon, zoning official. Yes, we had a little bit of internal miscommunication with when the sows went out. When the sows went out, and when the sows went out,
What are you saying, the sow?
a statement of work, I'm sorry.
Thank
The
you.
statement of work of when we issue a statement of work for the contractor to begin. There was a little miscommunication between a couple departments, and it's been straightened out and won't happen again. So they were about 4 days late starting their mow. We wanted them to start June 1st, or July 1st. They started July 5th. Right now, we're starting our 2 mows per month. When they get through with the city this time, the full cycle, they'll begin again for their second mow. We'll do 2 mows a month for July, August, and September. So the extra rain obviously did not help. Hot, humid, the grass grows. So we are working with them, and they're out there. They've been out there since July 5th working. So they're working diligently to get it under control. And by the time they get ready, when they get the city finished, they have more people on staff and more equipment on staff than our previous contractor. So they are able to normally do the entire city, not just Burnt Star Isles or not just Burnt Star Meadows. They can usually do the entire city within 5 to 7 days.
Well, I would like to add, in Burnt Star Isles, the grass is very high, and code compliance would be very busy citing people
Right.
if they weren't in the lot mowing program.
And
You know,
we're,
and I know across from me, I have 2 lots that are being used for staging for Irma restoration, and it looks like a junkyard, the way it's being maintained. It's really a very pitiful sight. My husband and I were talking about this morning. It's embarrassing what it looks like.
for the
MCI is not maintaining the property. They've got stuff just laying all over the place, and big yellow tarp that's been sitting there forever, and for whatever reason, I don't know, but, you know, it's just, and with the tall grass, and it's just like, so.
And we can address that. If we'll get the address, we can definitely address that with them.
Okay.
What is the term, maybe Marion can answer this, what is the term for the contract with the current mowing company?
Marion Pace, Procurement Manager for the record. I believe we entered in the contract with them last summer, so it'll be a 3-year, so that would be 19, 20, 21. Like 19 or 2021 is when this one will expire. It does have an optional renewal period for an additional 3 years, should you choose to go forward.
Is there a non-performance clause?
Yes, there is a non-performance clause. There's also a clause for termination for convenience.
Okay.
I remember when we did this, they bid the contract because the contract was the same rate as the previous one.
It was lower than the previous.
Lower than, and that was because they were using the big gang mowers
Yes.
as opposed to using the zero turn.
Yeah. The
I
last-
don't know what the other vendors did, and I don't know what the procurement.
Okay, so basically, I went through and I looked at everybody's submittals packages for the lowest 3 bidders. And the 3 lowest bidders, they had 1 zero-turn or small lawnmower on their equipment list, 61-inch and under. All the rest, they were proposed to do with tractors and with the pull-behind finish mowers or bush hogs or whatever they chose to use. That's been how we've allowed them to bid historically. We did have one contractor that did start mowing with 0 turns, and it, produced a very nice finished lawn. But all 3 of the lowest bidders did bid with tractors pulling behind their mowers. And the $11, which they proposed to go to all 0 turns, is equivalent to the 3rd lowest bidders per lot rate of $11 per mow.
What was the next highest bid?
The next highest bid was $10.80,
Okay, so not too far
and that was
under.
with tractors. So it was Arbor One proposed $7.50, Montgomery Mowing $10.80, and then Walker's was $11 per mow. And then our incumbent from our previous contract, they bid $15 a mow.
Okay.
I'm inclined to keep the contract at 170 and let them use their tractor mower. I don't see this increase being beneficial to the city, because I think code enforcement's going to have 700 more calls a month that they're going to have to be accountable for, and the time and the paperwork that's involved is not worth the difference. I don't like it, but
The problem that I'm having is, we hear from the people who are here
Yep.
that they're unhappy with the mowing service for the people who are not here. And, I didn't hear from a single person who gets their lot mowed that they would be unhappy with the $205. But I do hear about unhappy with these giganimous tractors running around their property. So, I'm torn. I understand that this could cause a lot of people to pull out of the program, but
I do want to mention on the 205, that is, if you did go with the 205, that is what we put on the trim notice that goes out in August. So that's a lot of times when we hear back, when people get those notices, just.
But that's when people see that, that's when people will react to it.
Yes,
And so it's, what do we want people to see?
yes.
Because people will, in the past, I guess, I would suspect when people see the trim notice, that could cause them to want to opt out at that point in time.
I think
That would be
we've
where they would
raised
maybe-
prices on enough stuff this year. Maybe we should go back, and we'll just wear a dust mask.
I'm just going to offer a different, as I've said before, this is a good deal for the property owners. However, the city is in a catch-22, because if the property owners drop out of the program, there's not a return on investment of trying to code enforce it, because we're so understaffed. We're kind of stuck. I don't like the program the way it's run, but I don't know of an alternative. I think that our obligation is primarily to the citizens of the city. I'm inclined to go with the 205, psychologically or not, if it's what it takes to make sure that we have the lots, for example, as you go down Marion, which are smaller lots, done properly. They were overgrown. There was a complaint. It was literally, and actually Lisa's response was, is they were supposed to have been taken care of today, and in fact they were, as the